Eskom's financial crisis has become a national problem. A debate is raging about how to save the utility from defaulting on its growing debts, and they are massive. The debt currently stands at about 480 billion rand, with interest at 50 billion rand a year. Senior economist Dick Forson talks us through what he believes could be done to salvage the situation and help keep the lights on. Dick, you got an interesting solution. Talk us through it. Dick, can you hear me? You've got an interesting solution there.
Very weakly, but I can hear you if I try.
Okay. I'm going to pose that question again. Your solution to saving Eskom and us, the taxpayer, from throwing more money at it, what is it?
Well, it is to use not to use the national budget, which the Treasury has done since in February, the budget review, and now it's planning to do again. They should not use the national budget. They should use the funds of the Public Investor Corporation and the government employee pension funds. That can be done without threatening the pensioners at all. These funds are the PIC, who is managing the state pension fund, is running with a huge surplus. It's 50 billion this year, and there's no need to sort of speak about that there's a crisis for this. In fact, the PIC seems to be losing money left, right, and center. 4 or 5 billions here, 3-4 billion here. It's so big so that it seems that they can't keep. Nobody notices if the money is disappearing.
Okay, you say the money is disappearing. It's obviously compromised the PIC. I mean, it's in the news on almost a daily basis. You're putting the PIC and a pension fund together. I mean, that sounds pretty frightening.
Yeah, but I mean, you have 1.8 trillion rand in the government employee pension funds. It doesn't have to have this money. Even according to the government pension law, they don't have to have this fund. They could be 300 billion rand smaller and still be paying the pensions to the government employee. And I mean, the Treasury, they should be intellectually honest and answer the question why this is impossible to use these funds. The GEPF is one of the biggest creditors to Eskom. It has lent 87 billion rand to Eskom, and if it is possible for Eskom, for the GEPF and the PIC to take a haircut, as they say on this claim.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting watching that trail of who's funding who here and how it could impact on the debt situation in Eskom. You say that this is pretty obvious and that politicians need to be honest about it. But if it is that obvious, why hasn't it been done before?
I think, I don't know if the size of the government employee pension fund might be a part of the negotiated settlement and so on. I mean, we posed this question to the Treasury delegation during the lockup at the budget review now in February, and they didn't want to engage on this issue. But one of the delegates from the Treasury came down and said it's a political issue, and maybe it is. But I mean, it's also about the public sector wage bill, which the Treasury really wants to cut. Well, the Treasury, the budget is paying the employer contributions to the government employee pension funds is over 100 billion rand this year, and so if you would lower the contribution, the employer contributions from the Treasury, from the national budget to the GEPF, then you also would have money to save Eskom in a manner which is not hitting health, education, housing, etc.
I mean, Dick, so when you put it that way, it is a no-brainer. You touched on the fact that there could be politics at play here. It's South Africa. I suspect you are correct. What do you think the political machinations are behind the scenes?
Well, I think as a part of the negotiated settlement, I think all the parties state really want to have a guarantee for all its employees after 1994, and that was one of the purposes with the government employee pension funds. But I mean, now we are 25 years down the road now, and now we must understand that if you have a creditor to the state-owned enterprises and even to the government itself, then you are basically negotiating with yourself. If you are negotiating that the government employee pension fund should lower their demands for returns on their investments. So you have a big player which is controlled by the government, who is one of the biggest creditors. And I mean, it's a low-hanging fruit, but politically, perhaps, logically, it's a low-hanging fruit. Politically, it must be another matter. But I think the unions must start to understand how a pension system can work for them also. You can't have a situation where you have austerity in the public sector for those who are working, and then you have a program of the Treasury to give early retirement to 30,000 senior officials because the Treasury is in favor of austerity to lower the government expenditure.